yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Please turn to page 16 for Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Say it, Chem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oh, okay. Thank you, Albert. Let's see.
Or maybe you can turn it.
Oh. We have a lot of degrees of freedom to this thing. So let's see here. Our next blessing is Psalm 29 on page 34. And what I'd like to do is the first 5 lines. Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, Havu l'Adonai kevod va'oz, Havu l'Adonai kevod shemo, Ishtachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim, Adonai almayim, almayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai Shover Arazim, Vaishaber Adonai, et Arze Halvanon. Thank you. And, next let's go to page 38, which is Lecha Dodi. But before we do that, let's, there's some English, some English explanation, a little bit of history on page 37 that I'd like to share. Under the title, A Note of Lecha Dodi, 2 themes are emphasized in this popular hymn of welcome: love for Shabbat and the redemption of Jerusalem and of our people. The comparison of Shabbat to a bride who is to be welcomed is of Talmudic origin. Rabbi Hanina used to say, "Come, let us go out to meet the bride, the queen." In the 16th century, in the picturesque city of Safed, Jewish mystics, whose faith was marked by intensity and fervor, took this idea literally. Boys and men dressed in white would go out to the fields in procession to greet Shabbat, chanting psalms and portions of the Song of Songs. One of those Kabbalists, Rabbi Shlomo Halevi Al-Kabetz, composed the hymn Lecha Dodi, and the first letters of the stanzas spell out his name. So if you haven't been to Israel, when you do have your chance, you absolutely want to visit Safed. The Rashis and I got to do that. It was just a beautiful, beautiful place. It also goes by the name Tzfat, and I don't really know which term the locals use. They probably use both, yes? So we're on page 38, and we have a chorus at the beginning, and then what I'd like to do is the first two stanzas, and the last stanza, please. And then for the last stanza, we stand and we face the entrance to the synagogue. So, Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zichor b'dibor echad. Hishmianu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad ushmo echad. L'shem ultiferet v'lit hila. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha. Ki hi mekor habracha. Mesh rosh mikedem nesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machashava tehila. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Boi b'shalom ateret bala. Gam b'simcha uv'tachala. Toch emunei am segula. Boi kala. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's turn to the Sabbath Psalm on page 42. And what I'd like to do is we'll sing the first line, or the line above the first line, and then let's read the English together, and then we'll finish with the last four lines in Hebrew. Is that good? Oh, we're good online? Mm-hmm. Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you. Mizmor shir layom ha-Shabbat, tov li'adot l'Adonai, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon. It is good to thank you, O Lord, to sing praises to your exalted name, to proclaim your love every morning and your faithfulness every night, to the sound of the 10-string lyre with voice and the music of the harp. Your works, O Lord, bring me gladness. Of your deeds I sing with joy. How great are your deeds, O Lord! How profound are your designs! The simple cannot comprehend, the foolish cannot grasp this. Though the wicked may thrive like grass, and the doers of evil seem to flourish, their doom is sure to come, for yours is the ultimate triumph. Those who oppose you will perish, the workers of iniquity will be routed. You have given me extraordinary power. I am like one who has been anointed. I see the defeat of my foes. I hear the doom of my enemies. The righteous will flourish like the palm trees. They will thrive like the cedar of Lebanon. Planted in the house of the Lord, they will flourish in the courts of our God. Even in old age, they will bear fruit, retaining their vigor and their strength, proclaiming that the Lord is just, my rock, in whom there is no unrighteousness. Tzadika tamar yifrach ke'erez balbanon yisgeis shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu o yunuvu beseva deshenim verananim yiu lehagid ki yashar Adonai Tzuri, Tzuri, velo avlatabo. I've always liked that last sentence most of all. Let me get some water, and we'll continue. Oh, okay. Very good. So we'll turn to page 50 for the Baruch Hu. And I think what we'll do, and please rise. So we have Yalalas before, and I think in the middle, and that is, we have a Yalala at the beginning. I'll say the Baruch Hu, then we have another Yalala, and then you'll say the Baruch Hu, and I'll repeat that, and I think that's how we'll proceed. Yalala. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed. Thank you. You may be seated. Let's read Ma'ariv Aravim together in English. Praise, or responsively, hey? Praised are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, whose word brings on the dusk of evening. Your wisdom opens the gates of dawn. Your understanding regulates time and seasons. The stars above follow their appointed rounds in response to your divine will. You create day and night. You alternate darkness and light. You remove the day and bring on the night. You separate one from the other. We call you Lord of heavenly hosts. You are a living God. May you rule over us as you rule over nature. Praised are you, O Lord, who brings the evening dust. El Chai v'kayam tamid yimlok aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. And we now turn to page 53 for the Shema. Oh, that's right, yes. And actually, before we do that, let me read the prelude to the Shema on page 53. The 6 Hebrew words which constitute the Shema are the first words of prayer which we are called upon to teach our children. They are the last words to be uttered at life's end. Each time we recite the Shema, we declare our belief in the one, invisible, and incomparable God. Each time we recite the Shema, we take upon ourselves the obligation to love God with all our hearts, minds, and souls, and to live faithfully in accordance with God's commandments. Each time we recite the Shema, we link ourselves to countless generations of Jews who steadfastly recited these sacred words. And we recall those who uttered these words as they prepared to surrender life itself rather than embrace an alien faith. Each time we recite the Shema, we reaffirm that one God is the parent of us all, and that all of God's children are related by a bond which transcends differences of origin or belief. Each time we recite the Shema, we proclaim our creed and hear a call for noble living in the presence of the Lord our God. On page 54, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha b'derech usharpecha uv'kumecha ugshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot b'neinecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm on page 60, and I have a note here that my friend Deborah frequently would read the blessing in English up until she got to Moses and the children of Israel. So I think we'll do that, and then we're going to jump over to the Hebrew. And in the Hebrew, we'll start with the line indented to the right, umalchuto, and I think the lines, it's not I think, the lines indented to the right, I'll sing, and then the lines not indented to the right that come after that we'll do together. So let's read the English on the top of page 61 responsively. True and certain it is that there is one God, incomparable, and that we, the household of Israel, are God's people. It is God who redeemed us from the might of tyrants, delivering us from slavery unto freedom. Great are the things which God has done, with wonders which are without number, delivering our ancestors from Egyptian bondage, inspiring hope and faith in every generation. May God continue to protect our people and guard all humankind from disaster. When the children of Israel beheld God's might, they gave thanks and praised the divine name. They accepted God's sovereignty willingly and sang in joyous thanksgiving. Proclaimed in great exultation. Umalchuto bratzon kiblu alehem Moshe uvnei Yisrael, lecha anu shira, b'simcha rabah, ve'amru kulam, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, Nora Tihilot Osefele Malchutecha Ra'u Beinecha Bokeach Am Lifnei Moshe Elianu V'Yamru Adonai Yimlok Leolam Voed Ve'ne'emar ki padad Adonai et Yaakov ugalo miyad chazak mimenu baruch atah Adonai gal Yisrael. Okay, and I think here is where we're going to break, and I have a short devar to deliver on this week's Parsha, which is called Vayigash. And this devar, the core of it is from Rabbi Sachs, and and it's dated the 30th of December, the 30th of December, 2019. Rabbi Sachs was the chief rabbi of Great Britain, and unfortunately passed away in the last year or two. So the context is Joseph is in Egypt. He has been freed from the dungeon by Pharaoh, who has given him a powerful leadership role in Egypt. In our Parsha, Joseph reveals himself to his brothers, fully aware that they will suffer shock and then guilt as they remember how it is that their brother is in Egypt. But he does something unusual. He reinterprets the past. Quote, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land. And for the next 5 years, there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, the ruler of all Egypt, unquote. This is remarkably different to the way Joseph described these events when he spoke to the Pharaoh's chief butler in prison. Quote, I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve being put in a dungeon, unquote. At that time, it was a story of incarceration and injustice. Now, Joseph's story has become a story of divine providence and redemption. It wasn't you, he tells his brothers, it was God. You didn't realize that you were part of a larger plan. And though it began badly, it has ended well. So don't hold yourselves guilty. Do not be afraid of any desire for revenge on my part. There is no such desire. I realize that we were all directed by a greater force than ourselves, greater than we can fully understand. Joseph does the same in next week's Parsha when the brothers fear that he may take revenge after their father's death. Quote, don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives, unquote. Joseph is helping his brothers revise their understanding of the events of the past. Rabbi Sachs' message is that we cannot fully understand what is happening to us now until we look back in retrospect. This means that we are not held captive by the past. Things can happen to us, not as dramatically as to Joseph perhaps, but nonetheless things happen to us. And these things can completely alter the way we look back and understand, or in other words, remember. After we understand the past, then, by taking actions, we can redeem the past in the future. A classic example of this is in the late Steve Jobs, which he related in a 2005 commencement address at Stanford University, which I'm told is now available on YouTube. 2005 commencement address. In it, he described 3 crushing blows in his life: dropping out of college, being fired by the company he had founded, Apple, and being diagnosed with cancer. Each one, he said, had led to something important and positive. Dropping out of college, Jobs was able to audit any course he wished. He attended one on calligraphy, and this inspired him to build into his first computers a range of proportionally spaced fonts, thus giving computer scripts an elegance that previously had been available only to professional typesetters. And everyone here is my age or older, so we all know what typesetters are. Getting fired from Apple led him to start a new computer company called Next that developed capabilities he would eventually bring back to Apple. And the diagnosis of cancer led him to a new focus in life. It made him realize, in his words, quote, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life," unquote. Jobs' ability to construct these stories, what he called connecting the dots, was surely not unrelated to his ability to survive the blows he suffered in life. Few could have recovered from the setback of being dismissed from his own company, and fewer still could have achieved the transformation he did at Apple when he returned, creating the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad. He did not believe in tragic inevitabilities. Though he would not have put it in these terms, he knew that by action in the future, we can redeem the past. Professor Mordecai Rotenberg of the Hebrew University has argued that this technique of reinterpreting the past could be used as a therapeutic technique in rehabilitating patients suffering from a crippling sense of guilt. If the individual cannot change the past, then it is always there holding him or her back like a ball and chain around their legs. We cannot change the physical events of the past, but we can reinterpret them by integrating them into a new narrative. That is what Joseph was doing. After having used this technique to help him survive a personal life of unparalleled ups and downs, he now uses it to help his brothers live without overpowering guilt. We find this in Judaism throughout its history. The prophets reinterpreted biblical narrative for their day. Then came Midrash, which reinterpreted it more radically because the situation of Jews had changed more radically. Then came other great biblical commentators and mystics and philosophers. In every generation in all of Jewish history, Jews reinterpret their texts in the light of the present experience. We are the people who tell stories and then retell them repeatedly, each time with a slightly different emphasis, establishing a connection between then and now, rereading the past in the light of the present as best we can. It is by telling stories that we make sense of our lives and the life of our people. And it is by allowing the present to reshape our understanding of the past that we redeem history and make it live as a positive force in our lives. Shabbat Shalom. Let me sample some more water. You know, I go the whole day, my throat feels fine. Wonderful. So Please stand. We're going to do Hatzi Kaddish. And then after the Hatzi Kaddish, we'll turn to north, and we'll read the Amida, and we do that silently on Friday evening. And if I start singing Oseh Shalom, and you haven't finished, please feel free to continue standing and finish. And do please take a moment to reflect on your week and the people that are important to you. Yit gadal v'yit gada shemei rabba v'alma divra kirute v'yamlik malchute v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael bagala bagala uvizman kari v'meru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudasha brechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'yalma v'meru amen. Say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, bimru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimaru, Amen. Let's turn to the back cover of our Siddurim, and we'll say a blessing for our friends that are ill, Mishaberach. So we'll begin with the Debbie Friedman melody that we usually do. Mishaberach Avotenu Mikor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. This Shabbat in our thoughts are the following. And Shelley Ackman, Steve Ashheim, Mona Bachov, Henry Birch, Sheldon Blattner, Teresa Kalla, Amelia Cooley, Audrey Dash, Bruce Dash, Patrick Drayling, Gordon Feinberg, Miriam Feingold, John Higgins, Donald Ingram, Alan Jacobs, Rita Kindle, Norman Levin, Steve Lishkin, Sandy Minkin, Dom Salfi, Loretta Schur, Harleen Shrike, Leslie Schulsinger, Izzy Sigmund, Saul Stein, Bill Thompson, Peter Teitelbaum, Nancy Town, Herb Weissman, Katarina Williams, Leibel Ben Margalit, Leiba Shlomit Rachel Bat Margalit, Feivel Shlomo Ben Devorah, Yisrael Ben Ethel, Avraham Ben Binyamin. And others, please. Sheila? And I'll add Sawyer Bartell to the list. We continue. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Return to page 86 for Kaddish Shalem. 86. Okay. And so after Kaddish Shalem, we'll turn to Aleinu, which is on page 118, and we'll rise for Aleinu. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra kirtei, v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayachon uv'yomachon, uv'chayei dekol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman kari v'imeru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'olam ulalmei almaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yit hadar v'yit alev v'yit halal shmei dekudusha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushvachata v'nechamata damiram v'yalma v'imeru. Amen. Tikat bal tzlot hon avut hon dikol Yisrael kadam uvau hon divishmaya v'imeru. Amen. Yehei shlama rava min shamaya V'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'asei shalom. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. Page 118. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'teit gedula le'otzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam halkenu kahem, v'goralenu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'ishtakavim u'modim, Lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu notei shamayim v'osed oretz, umoshav v'karo b'shamayim mimal, ushki natuzo, v'gav he meromim, hu Eloheinu ein od, Emet Malkeinu Efes Zulato, Kakatuv B'Torato, V'yadat Hayom, Ha'hashevota Elevavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, B'Shamayim Imal, V'al Ha'aretz, Mitachat Ein Od, Ein od. Okein lakvei lecha Adonai Eloheinu vel Kakatuv b'toratecha Adonai yimlok li'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. You may be seated. We now turn to Mourner's Kaddish on page 124. And our yard site list consists of two names this week. Ruth Williams, the mother of Dan Williams, and and my father, Ron Ullman. If you're observing a yard site this week, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah. B'yalma divra kirutei v'yamliak malkutei. V'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dekol beit Yisrael. V'agala uzman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mefarach le'alam u'lamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal. Shmei Dekudisha Brechu, Le'ela min kol birkata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran b'ilma v'himru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'yel kol Yisrael v'imru amen. V'zeh shalom b'bramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yel kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Thank you. Announcements, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Shabbat shalom. Greg, thank you for leading services tonight. Very enjoyable Devar Torah. Thank you for putting the work in. Okay. We have one announcement I think everyone here knows. We are having our annual meeting Sunday at 10 o'clock, and we're doing it by Zoom, and I know all of you know when it is, where is it, and then all the Zoom codes. So we will see you Sunday morning. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, and I want to thank the Life Point Church for taking care of us this evening with audiovisual and streaming to the internet, and all the other wonderful care that they give us. So let's turn to Adon Olam for our completion. It's on page 128. So, Morris, do you have a tune that you would like to use? Asher Molach, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Adon Olam, Le'et Nasa, B'hefso Kol, Adai Malach Mishmo Nikra Adon Olam, B'yacharei, Kiklot HaKol, Levado Yimlok Nora Adon Olam, Behu haya, behu hoveh, behu yeh betifara Adon Olam, Adon hu echad, v'yein sheni, leham shelo v'habibra Adon Olam, b'li reshit, b'li tachlit, b'lo ha'oz v'hamizra Adon Olam, behu eli, b'chai goali, B'tzor havli b'yetzara Adon Olam, B'hu nisi, umanos li, Manat kosi b'yom ikra Adon Olam, B'yado avkir ruchi, B'yedishan v'ya'ira v'adon Olam, B'im ruchi, gaviyati, Adonai li v'lo ira Adon Olam, Adon Olam. Asher Molach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'et Nasa, B'hefso Kol, Zay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam. Wonderful choice. Thank you, everybody here in person and all of everyone on the internet, too. Good night.
Thank you, Greg.
Shabbat Shalom.